What are you doing?
Reading.
No, you can't read that. This book will turn you into a witch.
A witch?
Yeah, Harry Potter contains magic, monsters, curses, and violence. Your skin will turn green, frogs will come out of your ears, and you'll have more cats than children. See, it's happening already.
Oh no, what should I do?
The only thing you can do is read a nice, wholesome book that contains no magic, monsters, curses, or violence. The thing that's beautiful about fanfiction is that not only can it serve as a love letter to a property you're fond of, but it gives writers an opportunity to expand upon or improve the source material. Take Harry Potter, for instance. Many fanfic writers invoke the Dramini pairing, exploring alternate storylines where Draco overcomes his prejudice of mudbloods and ends up with Hermione, which, according to its adherents, is the more interesting, dramatic, and in some ways, realistic outcome. On the other hand, you have things like My Immortal, which, assuming it was written in earnest, is the product of a profoundly disturbed and lonely teenage girl from the 2000s, wrought with aggressive author's notes, hideous grammar, dated music references, and grown men filming underage smut while masticating on their broomsticks. And then on a whole different level of profoundly disturbed is the Hogwarts School of Prayer and Miracles. Evangelical Christianity certainly has a presence in the literary world. Most notorious are the Chick Tracts, a series of booklets that visually proselytize the faith, often in scathing, uncharitable terms. More recently, I reviewed Derek Savage's book, Apocalypse: The Second Coming, basically a Revelation fanfic whose writing was riddled with all the stereotypical foibles of an out-of-touch Christian. And as you can imagine, books like Harry Potter have drawn the ire of this crowd as it teaches the horrible dark arts of witchcraft and demonry and gingers. This series has been attacked, banned, burned, and, in at least one case, rewritten from an evangelical perspective. Enter Grace Ann Parsons, screen name Proud Housewife, who sought to solve the nationwide crisis of young readers turning into witches by reworking Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone into the Hogwarts School of Prayer and Miracles, a fanfic that, according to her, has all the adventure of J.K. Rowling's books, but will not lead your children astray. We'll see about that. Where do I even begin with this? I mean, obviously the first chapter, which is just called Chapter 1, even though all the other chapters have more fitting titles, except Chapter 12 for some reason. So just like the book, Harry Potter is a poor little orphan boy who lives with his aunt and uncle in a cupboard under the stairs. Unlike the book, Petunia is a career woman who wears pantsuits, Vernon is a meek house husband who bakes brownies, and they partake in daily readings from the Dawkins. See, this is how you know they're bad. It also never reveals what happened to Lily and James. I'm just gonna assume Voldemort killed them too, which will become all the more hilarious later on in this story. Hagrid shows up on the doorstep to proselytize. He's wearing stereotypical Texan garb, and there's inordinate attention drawn to the quality of his chest hair. This is important, I promise. Anyway, Hagrid says, "You're a Christian, Harry." And Harry's like, "I'm a what?" And Petunia's all like, "Harry doesn't need religion. He has science and socialism and birthdays." Now, I'm not saying I want science and socialism and birthdays. It's just that at least two of those things promise cake. And if it's a choice between cake now and God later, Hagrid then challenges Petunia on her belief in capital E evolution, deeming it a fairy tale. "We came from monkeys." What a fairy tale. Now listen to my story about talking snakes and tongues of fire and demon-possessed pigs drowning themselves in lakes. But Hagrid saves his coup de grace for last. The 4 armor-piercing words that shatter Petunia's world. "Well then, prove it." Owned. Get the fuck out of here. Uninstall the game of living. Now, granted, I'm sure there are atheists out there who could not defend evolution to save their lives, but that conversation is too complex for this fanfic, so let's get right back to the stupid. Such as Harry, with no context or knowledge, reciting the sinner's prayer upon Hagrid's cue, rendering Petunia powerless against his pure, innocent, holy energy. The self-indulgence is delicious. Must consume. And that was just chapter 1. There's 14 of these. For the sake of our collective gray matter, I won't be dissecting each individual chapter like this. The story's free to read, linked in the description, so please check it out when the video's over. It's apparent this is a work that doesn't tell a story, but rather talks to the reader. There are these little asides that broadcast what the author is thinking and what she wants you to think. Hey, why put a message in a story when you can put a story in a message? None of that pesky introspection or subtlety. It's the destination, not the journey. Isn't that what they say? The characters always scream? Every other dialogue verb is a cry or a screech or a bellow, like they're all trying to talk to their grandparents over the phone. How do they get anything done if they're always shouting over each other? Also, take a shot every time the author uses an unnecessary adverb. Actually, no, don't do that. You'll be dead by chapter 3. Seriously, it gets ridiculous. Here's some of my favorites. Solicited inquisitively, pronounced genially, commented daintily, reassured manfully, sobbed honestly, screeched articulately, shook his head godlessly.
How the fuck do you shake your head godlessly?
Now pay attention, folks. This is how you shake your head godlessly. And this is how you shake your head godfully. This knowledge has been brought to you in part by Grace Ann Parsons, literary savant of our time. You know, Stephen King once said that the road to hell is paved with adverbs. Grace Ann should have posited accurately that liberally deploying adverbs makes readers recoil disgustedly at her excessively agonizing prose. Here, this one might be safer. Take a shot every time a child is referred to as a little one. Little one. What are they, 6? Dumbledore goes by Reverend, and he too is a model Texan man. McGonagall is his wife, who's young and blonde and useless. Seriously, all she does is cook and clean and faint at the sight of trouble. Hermione is their daughter, and she's this pretty and pink girly girl who cries all the time. Excuse me, sobs femininely. And Dean Thomas, Dean Thomas is given the royal treatment throughout the text, described as clean-cut and well-spoken, and a son any mommy would be proud to have. This makes a lot more sense when you remember that Dean Thomas is one of few canonically black characters in Harry Potter. What are you trying to say, Grace Ann? Or rather, what are you trying to hide? And Ron Weasley's a Slytherin. Okay, this one requires context. The houses in this fanfic retain their names, but they're denoted by hats, like actual physical hats, which you get sorted into. I think some wires got crossed in translation. And each hat is symbolic of a different denomination of Christianity. Oh boy, this is gonna get good, isn't it? So, according to the text, the Gryffindor hats are the evangelicals because they're perfect and awesome. The Hufflepuff hats are these New Age spiritualists because they're lame and lack conviction. The Ravenclaw hats are brazenly misogynist Christian nationalists because of course they are. And the Slytherins are Catholics. This still requires context. In real life, some evangelicals believe Catholics are idolaters for their statue worship, and apostates for their recognition of the Pope, whom they see as a false prophet, especially the current Pope Francis. In more blunt terms, Catholics are deceivers, likened to the serpent in Genesis. Henceforth, they're the house represented by a snake. As for why Ron's a Slytherin, well, Weasley, redhead, Irish, Catholic. The cultural sensitivity in this Harry Potter fanfic is about as subtle as Harry Potter. Also, Draco's a Ravenclaw and he wears sweater vests and preaches about how women are bad and don't deserve rights. Huh. I knew all along Ravenclaw was the based hat. Severus is a Gryffindor who goes by Mr. Snape and... oh, hold on. I forgot something. This fanfic has a subplot. Not in the story, but in the author's notes. We get little snippets of Grace Ann Parsons' daily life in the header of each chapter. She answers fan mail, argues with her critics, cares for her pneumonia-stricken children, and attains permission from her husband Greg to take writing classes. I bring this up because Mr. Snape is described as this dark, mysterious, handsome man with thick, neatly trimmed chest hair, and who, at one point, and I wish I were making this up, is accidentally referred to in the text as Greg. You know, Grace Ann, I think your mind may be wandering to some unholy places. Do you wish your husband Greg were more like Mr. Snape, Grace Ann? Do you project the curated appeal of fiction onto the stubborn objectivity of real life? Do you wish the slick, steely allure of Alan Rickman would lie with you in bed every night, as opposed to the plain, pinched, unsatisfying rag that is your darling Greg? You long for more, Grace Ann. There's a hollowness inside you that neither Greg nor God can fill. But perhaps Mr. Snape can rub his greasy nose in it. You know, maybe it was a good idea for Greg to ban you from writing more words. Maybe he saw the threat of Mr. Snape and worried that his dear wife was falling for a digital idol of text and code. I'll pray for both of you, but I fear prayer might not be enough. For a story that's supposed to replace the magic in Harry Potter with prayer and miracles are sure a hell of a lot more powerful than Harry Potter magic. If you want something, you just have to get on your knees and scream to God loud enough. Seriously, you can manifest food, usurp the allegiance of your enemies, and apparate with prayer alone.
Dear Lord, take me to the kitchen, for I am hungry. We're low on chips.
And I bet you're wondering, what exactly do they teach at the Hogwarts School of Prayer and Miracles? High caliber math and English, better than what the public schools offer. Also, American history, constitutional law, and missionary training. You know, I heard of this other school that does something similar. I think it's called Prager University. Seems legit. You should check it out. The only thing that kind of makes sense about this Christian Hogwarts is that letters are delivered via angels instead of owls. Which, you know, not nearly as cool, but I didn't hate it? I guess. I didn't hate it. That's the most you'll get out of me, Grace Ann. And lastly, there's Voldemort, the fornicating, drug-addicted evolutionist, whose evil plan is to conspire with the Pope to pass a bill through Congress that would make Christianity illegal, leading to the good old days of lion-based capital punishment. You know what? I take it all back. It requires one hell of an imagination to come up with something as batshit crazy as this. So, good job, Grace Ann. You made me give up writing. I'm Giuseppe Tartini being serenaded by the devil and smashing my violin in the face of such splendor. Not only that, but since Tom Riddle is still his real name, Voldemort is actually his Reddit handle, which isn't funny, that's just accurate. And then there's you/Voldemort's actual posts, one of which reads, and I quote, "Christians all sucks. Their religion is stupid and should be illegal. I will write to Congress and tell them to make law." See, this is where my suspension of disbelief ends, as the language is too nuanced and intelligent to portray a Reddit atheist. Did the writer do any research? And how are we informed that Voldemort is a god-forsaken shitheel? How else? His chest hair is only described as thin. Look, there's drawing you as the soy jacket, and then there's depicting you with inadequate chest hair. I don't think you want this smoke, buddy. This ending scene where the entirety of Hogwarts confronts Voldemort in the parking lot is where the writer drops the ball. And when you realize that this whole entire thing was, in fact, satire. No, I'm not kidding. Voldemort is the most rational, well-written, and realistic character in this entire fanfic by leaps and bounds. He admits that his Reddit account was actually a giant troll campaign, depicting himself as an outlandishly stereotypical atheist to mess with the Christians he argues with. Quote, "Aren't there better ways to spend your time than preaching to a bored idiot who makes fun of people on the internet? Your Lord seemed to be pretty concerned about helping the people around him. Is that not his work anymore?" Holy shit. And you know what else? Not only is the writer, Grace Ann, Stephen, Billy Bob, whoever, mocking fundamentalists, but also the raging commenters leaving death threats and acrid reviews. I mean, they are just as incensed and fury-driven as the character screaming for Voldemort's conversion at the end of the story. And that's just more of a credit to the actual quality of the writing, because as someone who was only familiar with the Chick Tracts and Apocalypse Second Coming, the little tells in the writing were just so familiar. It's clear the writer, whoever they were, grew up around a lot of this stuff and was able to perfectly replicate it in this fanfic. And just as Voldemort walks away depravedly, their words having no impact on him, the author of this story likewise disappeared without an explanation, leaving this brilliant work of satire for the rest of us to chew on and spit over. Bravo, whoever you are. Absolutely brilliant. So, did this story have all the adventure of J.K. Rowling's books? No. Was it a hilariously demented experience with a great twist? Absolutely. I strongly recommend this fanfic for anyone watching this video, so please read it when you get a chance. I promise you there is so much more I didn't talk about that I want you to find for yourselves. What other god-awful fanfics do you know of? I found a Percy Jackson fanfic that looks promising, and of course, my immortal is tried and true. Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. And with that, I will see you all next time.